Hi, welcome to another edition of Iver's Declassified Modern Survival Guide. Today we're going to be talking about bird watching in general. And bird watching is kind of like fishing. You can never count on seeing the bird when you want to see the bird. Last year we had a little brief flurry of interest because down on the coast there was the Steller's sea eagle. And so I decided to go down there. And I went down there once and just kind of went around and talked to people and kind of got the lay of the land, went to different places. And then I went down the next time and I went all the way down one peninsula. And there were all these bird watchers. And I asked them if they had seen the Stellers. And they said, whoa, no, it's over near the Booth Bay Aquarium. So I drove all the way up one peninsula, all the way down the other one. And they said, oh no, it's by the bridge. And fortunately, I had been to the bridge the time before. So I ran to the bridge, went out on the bridge, and there were these guys with these giant spotter scopes, giant telescopes and things. So I ran out there and they said, he's right out there on a tree out there, and ran out there and saw the Stellar sea eagle, which looked like a gigantic cartoon of an eagle. It looks like one of those crazy eagles, sort of like cornpone leghorn, remember him? The giant rooster in the cartoons. So anyway, I thought it was kind of fun just to have sighted it. So we have been going out here to this spot, which shall remain undisclosed. It is someplace in the local area, and usually between 9:30 and 11 o'clock we see we call her Sandy. 2 years ago we noticed a large bird in a cornfield we had never seen before. Using the Merlin birding app, we discovered this bird was a sandhill crane, which is relatively rare for this area. There's a hotbed of sandhill cranes in the Belgrade Lakes region, but to our knowledge, Sandy was the only sandhill crane in the Skowhegan-Madison area. Sandhill cranes are relative newcomers to Maine, being first documented in the 1980s as rare spring and fall migrants. The state's first confirmed nestling pair was reported in 2000 near Lake Messalonsky in Belgrade. Since then, sandhill crane numbers have grown, and there are now more than a dozen pairs nesting in Maine. Almost every day in the month of April, the crane can be seen scavenging for food in the field between the hours of 9 to 11 a.m. By late April, early May, the bird had moved on. This year, like clockwork, and to our great surprise and delight, Sandy had returned to the same field and this year brought a mate. We called him Tex, but in our research learned he is most likely from Florida. This year, I just got a call from John Harlow yesterday, and he said, Sandy's back, and she's got a mate. And so yesterday we came running out here, and we saw the two of them bobbing their heads along as they walked along, and all this kind of, right out here in this field. Today, we just got out here. Now we're taking a look at the whole perimeter of the field with my binoculars. Very important to have binoculars if you're a bird watcher. Probably a little more serious binoculars than what I have right now. And I see a crow flying along. So that's a bird. That counts as a bird, but it is not Sandy. So we're scanning the entire field for where we saw them yesterday. And I'm afraid seeing a lot of corn stalks and a crow, but no sandhill cranes today. Like I say, it is not a given that you're going to see a bird when you go to see them. But every time you kind of learn a little and you check out a little. I ran right home, and my wife and I came back here, and believe it or not, we saw Sandy and her mate mating. It was pretty incredible. And it also proves that John has this theory that Sandy went back to probably the Gulf Coast down in Texas or someplace and said, I know this great place in Maine, we got to come back here. So they came back here, and it looks like they're loving being in Maine. So John was saying maybe they're, gonna nest someplace. And I'm not sure where they end up, but sandhill crane is very rare around here. You don't see them around here. You see them in the Midwest. You see them out in Nebraska. They're not from around here. They ain't from around here. So it's kind of cool to be able to see a rare bird right here in your own backyard. And this gets to my other topic, which is low carbon adventure. There's lots of adventures you can have, extremely cool adventures, without wrecking the environment here and putting more CO2 into the air. And if you look right up here, you'll see a lot of contrails, and there's even a plane right now making a contrail. All these are contrails, and they're all going to widen out into clouds and stuff too. You can see all the contrails in the sky from planes coming along here, and they're usually heading to Europe or heading back from Europe. So that's an awful lot of them. And every single time you fly, it's like half a winter's worth of kerosene that is burned by these jets. So there's a lot of great adventures you can take right here in your own backyard, right here in Maine, and not add to the CO2, which is making the place hotter, raising sea levels, and changing the climate. And we're standing on a chunk of ice right now, but it's almost 75 degrees, and that's unusual for early April in Maine. But so the climate is changing a bit, and things that we love to do, like skiing and snowshoeing and making maple syrup, are going to be affected by the change in the climate. And I wish the birds would come out. Come on, Sandy.
Have you heard their call?
No, but maybe they're upset that we caught them mating yesterday, and that's the reason they're not showing up here. They may have found a more private place where they're not being watched by bird watchers and things. But they didn't seem to mind yesterday.
We'll be back for you.
We will be back, and we're going to keep an eye on this spot, which shall remain undisclosed. We're going to keep an eye on this spot and keep looking for Sandy and her boyfriend, which, I don't know, we haven't come up with a good name for him yet. What do you think? We'll have to think about it, but we're going to figure out a good name for him. He's definitely a newcomer to Maine. He's from the Gulf Coast. He could be Tex. Maybe we could call him Tex, because he's probably down around Texas, where they spend a lot of time in Cuba, and they spend a lot of time.
Speak Spanish to him.
Posiblemente. What could we call him? Something Spanish, maybe. His name.
Hermoso.
What? Hermoso. Hermoso might be his name. We don't know yet, really. So anyway, we're going to keep looking. We're going to keep checking out this spot. And when we see the sandhill crane, we're going to let you know here on Channel 11. And it's been a pleasure talking to you guys. And it's a beautiful day. And get out there and do some bird watching. Check it out. It's low carbon activity. It's fun. It's exciting. You never know what you're going to see.
5 minutes later.
Okay, we're here.
You are not going to believe it.
We have just sighted the elusive sandhill cranes. They're here, and they're poking around. They must have slept in last night because of their exertions. But today, they're back. Here they slept until 11:25, which is a little late for them. They're usually here 9:30. Well, that's, of course, when Sandy was single. Now she has a reason to sleep in with her mate, Tex. There they are. They've come from the Gulf Coast all the way up to here. And if I look in my binocs, I can see their red heads as they walk along. Really cool. That little bit of red on their head shows up really nicely. Now you watch as they walk. They bob their head every single time they walk. They walk like an Egyptian. There they are, the elusive sandhill crane, making their first appearance here in Maine. The cranes have come to Maine. Beautiful little red head. They're quite tall. I'd say they're probably 3 or 4 feet tall. They almost kind of look like little ostriches, kind of. And they're looking up right at us right now, bobbing their heads, cruising around, looking for worms or anything they can get. They're just kind of bobbing along. It's a real privilege to see something like this. I love the way they're on really tall legs, almost stilt-like legs. And as they cruise around, they bob their heads. They look up every once in a while. There you go, see him? One is a little lighter than the other. You'll notice one is a tiny bit lighter than the other one. And we're not sure which one is the male or which one's the female, but one is a tiny bit lighter. Well, I'm going to say that Sandy is the lighter one. Hard to tell, though. They've come from very far away, and they're kind of making Maine their home. I think they hang out all summer. There's been a rumor that they've been hanging out in the Belgrades in the summer, like a lot of people. And a lot of people, snowbirds, come to Belgrade for the summer because they like it there. Lots of stuff to poke around at, lots of stuff to eat, lots of things to check out. So this bird watching thing is really kind of fun, especially if you're seeing a big bird like this that does a lot of stuff. They're kind of a cool bird because they're so big. You'll never see anything like this in Maine. Basically, it's never sort of been seen before because they all hang out in Nebraska, and they kind of have big groups in Nebraska and places. And a friend of ours said that he actually saw them doing a mating dance. So I guess they get jiggy with it at some point, and they go and dance around, and they do all sorts of crazy, wild stuff as part of their mating.
Did you see that fly away?
Did the sandhill crane fly away?
He didn't fly away.
So they're still poking around. They have not flown away. They're hanging out, walking like an Egyptian. They're kind of cool. They bob their heads kind of slowly as they walk. Sort of like, you know how a chicken bobs its head when it walks around? They do the same kind of thing. So I guess I'm going to have to get muddy. I'm just I'm steeling myself for the possibility of getting very muddy here. And yes, I'm getting in the mud. I am in the mud. You got to get in the mud. You got to get in the weeds to find your way to see things like the elusive sandhill crane. It's not everybody that sees the sandhill crane. And sometimes you have to get a little bit jiggy with it, get into the mud and get into the weeds of things to see the elusive sandhills. Right now I'm looking at them, and I can see their red heads and their little brown bodies, and they kind of go along together and bob their head every time they take a step, which is kind of cool. And they look like a little mini ostrich. Especially the back end of them has kind of like a little tail feather like an ostrich. So they're cruising along, kind of bobbing their heads as they walk, poking at things. They seem to be having a great time here in Maine. They have a little red crest on the top of their heads, and now they're walking together and bobbing their head, both of them, which is kind of fun. Now they're looking at each other, looking around, bobbing, cruising along. They're really liking it here in Maine. I love the way their like little heads are bobbing together now. Cruising uphill, looking for worms and things. Every day they seem to kind of have a good time coming out into the field with their little heads bobbing. Right now they're kind of synchronized, both walking the same way. They kind of have a little bluish tint to their necks, quite long neck. They're kind of like as long as a heron, and they have this really long beak. So they got a really nice long beak, and then they got this nice sort of brownish body. And like I said, that little, their head and a little white around. They're adapting nicely around here. We're having a really fun time. They love poking around these cornfields. Seems like there's something that they're now back down and kind of poking at stuff again. They like kind of work their way up the hill and to the left of the cornfield every day. And like I say, today they woke up late, but usually they're kind of here around 9:30, and they work their way up the cornfield till they disappear on the other side. 11. But here we are, it's 11:30 or later, 11:30, and they're kind of still poking around. They're about to disappear off the other end of the cornfield again. But it makes a nice show every day. We really enjoy checking them out every day. This is what we do here on Iver's Declassified Modern Survival Guide. We're always looking for adventures. We're always looking for new things to show you guys. And we're figuring out ways of having low carbon entertainment right here in central Maine. I think you guys will agree that there's no reason whatsoever to leave Maine from basically March onwards. I mean, if you get a little bothered by the winter, take a bus down to like DC and take a little tour around there or something. Take the train to DC, check it out down there or some other fun place, and then come back over here and experience what we have to offer around here. It's pretty fun, and I think you'll like it. Thank you all, and we'll see you next time on Iver's Declassified Modern Survival Guide.
Building castles in the sky, just the two of us, you and I. We look for love, no time for tears. Wasted water's all that is, and it don't make no flowers grow. Good things might come to those who wait, but not for those who wait too late. We gotta go for all we know, just the two of us. We can make it if we try, just the two of us.